I often sometimes have way too much on my mind. Way too much. And I have so many thoughts that I want to get out that sometimes I get nothing out because I have so many things that just kind of pop into my head randomly. But one of a couple things I'd like to address in this video, I'll try to keep them brief and short, is that one thing that we're going to see an uptick in is gaslighting. And I've said this before, and I will continue to keep saying it. Don't ever let those who were the government pros, I call them gov pros, those who were okay with sacrificing people's individual liberties, who kept saying you have your freedoms, but you don't have a right to get me sick, and you don't have a... First of all, people been getting each other sick long before the CV stuff. So let's not get that construed and confused. There were more people dying from the Kung Flu than died from the CV. So don't let them play that. That's one thing I shut down and hit them with the statistics. The reality of the situation is, and this is where the trophy culture has really ruined society, where everyone is entitled to something. Please understand, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the early 80s. So I grew up in the mid to late 80s, throughout the 90s. So please understand, if you were born late 90s, early 2000s, if you see this video, please understand I have a completely different mentality than people born in the late 90s and early 2000s, because there was no participation trophies. You either won or you got nothing. And it wasn't second place, third place. No, you might get like a trophy for second place or third place or whatever, but you never got rewarded for just participating. You didn't. And I believe they only gave trophies out for the top 5 teams, if my memory serves me correctly. So if you finished below 5th, you didn't get nothing. If you didn't do anything individually impressive, you didn't get nothing. And it didn't matter what sport you played. I played baseball and bowling throughout the 90s. And I distinctly remember a couple times when I played I only played 3 years of Little League. And I remember one year, I walked up out of there with Nathan. I think the only reason why, if I did get anything, it was because there wasn't a lot of teams. So I believe that's the only reason why I got anything. But other than that, that's the only trophy I walked up out of there with, was because we finished in 5th place. So when this all went down, everybody was trying to protect everybody. And I kept telling people who didn't necessarily agree with me, who told me that I should be, because I didn't want to get some experiment, or I didn't want to be somebody's experiment, that I should be locked up, I should be charged with crimes and shit like that. And I'm like, are you idiots not aware that you are literally fulfilling and doing the work of these so-called elites whom this is their ultimate goal anyways. And it was almost like at that point when this shit happened that we began to speak two different languages. And they had their program. They weren't deviating from it. They were okay with riots. You could be out in the street rioting and not get each other sick, but if you ever perched your lips to say fuck this ain't right, this is a violation of my civil liberties and everything, if you said anything that was contrary to the program, these people would literally be talking about how you need to be removed from society. And now we see how quietly and with a purpose and with an agenda, quietly these people are now moving as if they didn't say half the stuff that they said, as if they weren't the most egregious dictators themselves, as if they never said a word about afflicting you or wanting to see you afflicted because they chose to be an experiment and you said, fuck no, I don't want to be no experiment. I don't want these motherfuckers making money off of me. And they bribe people. They pull the Satan move. If you're familiar when scripture talks about when Christ he was fasting and Satan took him to the highest pinnacle on earth and showed him all of the kingdoms in a moment in time. And Satan said unto Christ, all these kingdoms will I give you if you shall bow down and worship me. And all these people were told through the workings of Satan and his seeds that all these freedoms that this card that they were given, this card that held artificial rights, all these privileges will I give back to you if only thou will bow down and take my juice. And that's what I called it. I called it Satan's juice. And I think from now on, that's what I'm going to refer to it in the video and videos. It's Satan's juice. Because that's what it was. Come to find out now, they're putting that stuff in everything, in the food supply. So now all the people who refuse to willingly be injected with Satan's juice will be unknowingly ingesting Satan's chemicals. You got to think about how wicked and evil you got to be to try and get people sick and ill so that you could somehow control them with 5G, 6G. You got to be a sick mofo, man. A real sick mofo to think that this is okay. To think that your life is so much more important that you can destroy another human being's life because you feel their life doesn't have any value. When in reality, your life has no value other than the fact that you have money. And money means nothing. And that's why these people hate God. Because they know at the end of the day, all these possessions that they have handed over their soul to gain all the possessions of the world. And when they die, they can't take not a nary thing with them. And I think, honestly, I believe that's what really angers them the most, is the fact that they know that for all the wealth that they have accumulated, for all the wickedness and the evil that they have perpetrated within the earth and on peoples and on nations and different ethnicities, for all the wickedness that they have done and all of the gain that they have and the spoils that they have gotten, they can't take none of it with them when they die.